Hello, today I'm going to be talking about the data collection process for the Artinis fNIRS cap. So the first thing that you will need to begin the data collection process is the two USBs. One of them is the Rocky and the other one is the Bluetooth USB. These need to be plugged into the Artinis laptop before you can run any of the software, and the correct USB slots on the computer are marked with where you can plug them in. So I'm going to plug them in now. Once you have those plugged in, you'll be able to open the data collection software. So on our computer, the icon for the data collection software is this one down here that kind of looks like a disk. It's called OxySoft, so we'll go ahead and open that up. Usually when you open the software, it's going to have your last data recording pulled up, but you don't want to use the same file. So the first thing that you'll do is click File and click New Project File. You should always save whatever is pulled up. So your new project file will look like this. It's completely blank. And then what we'll do is go to the Measurement tab, and we're going to create the measurement and start the device. So usually we just name the files by the subject number for whoever we're working with. So I'm just going to name this file as an example, subject number 1. You'll type that in the name column, and then in the data file field, you'll click Browse and save it to wherever you're storing your data. So here we have this project for one folder. Obviously, this is just an arbitrary data recording, but I'll go ahead and save it in this data folder anyways. And you don't want to copy the settings from any previous files, so always have that set to no copy. Then you will click Next. Here you'll click Add, and the name of the cap that we work with is the Brite, so I'm going to select that and press OK. And then the Bluetooth address will always be 24146. So I'm going to select that number and hit OK. And you'll want to make sure that your cap is turned on and that blue Bluetooth light is flashing. So now that it's not flashing, I can tell that it's connected to the computer. To turn the cap on, you use this big button. So if it's not on yet, you'll go ahead and press right there where it says Brite. If for whatever reason the blue Bluetooth light is not flashing, there is a little Bluetooth button on here that you can press, and that should cause it to start blinking, which is how you know it's ready to pair to the computer. So now that we're connected, we can hit Next. Oh, we can hit OK, and then we'll hit Next. So here we're going to select the Optode template. We use the same one because our cap design has never changed. So the name of the template that we use is the Brite 24, 1x9 plus 1x13. For this portion, you're going to calculate the DPF. So a lot of our studies involve older adults. If you have a person that's over the age of 50, it's going to tell you that that age is out of the age range. So we always use a constant value of 6.61, and you would put that for both of the groups. If your person is under the age of 50, then you can just type that person's age here. I'm 26, so let's go with that. And it gives me the value of 5.94. So I would go ahead and put that in here. And the distance is always kept at 30 millimeters, so you don't need to change that. We can go to the next. This screen, we don't change anything. Let's go to the next. We like to work with the 50 Hertz sampling rate, so I'll select that, click Next, and Finish. So this is just asking you how you want your data visualized as you're doing the live data recording. We typically set all of the fNIRS parameters to single graph and leave the ADC set to none. So now I'll click OK, and it's going to start recording a measurement. So yes, I would like the cap to turn the lights on. And now we're recording. So anything from here on out is going to be recorded. So there are a couple of quick things that I'll mention. Number one, the Bluetooth connectivity can sometimes be a problem. If you're having an issue with that, always restart the cap in the computer. That will usually fix it. What else? Okay, so at this point, there's a couple different features that we can note. The first thing that you should know is you should always wait 2 minutes after the lights have turned on before you record any data that you actually want to look at. That's because it can take the signal up to 2 minutes to stabilize. So if I had a real person here now, I would wait till this timer got to 2 minutes, and that's when I would begin recording anything that I need to look at. More than likely, that's not going to be an issue because it usually takes more than 2 minutes to put the cap on a person, but just worth noting. So usually before I go ahead and put the cap on the person, I like to just input all of the information to the software. So we'll go to analysis and define the event keys. So this part will depend on the project that you're working on, but what you'll do is you'll go through the protocol and look for any tasks or conditions that your participant is going to be going through, and you're going to fill those in here. So for one of our projects that has, more tasks, they do a resting state, they do a dual task state, they do a long single task UEF, short UEF, a gate task, and we also record the mocha. So we determined, what kind of label we wanted to use for each of these tasks. Sometimes you might have two tasks that start with the same letter. Just for instance, if you had, I don't know, I can't think of any examples, but these are all arbitrary labels. So as long as you have somewhere in your protocol what labels you're going to use for each condition, that's fine. So once I put them all in, they will be ready for me to mark any events as the participant is doing their tasks. So, usually they would start with the resting state. So how I'm going to mark that task to the software is I'm going to press on the R key. You can see here I marked R as the marker for rest. So I would press R and then I would just press the Enter key. Now, if you look over here, it'll tell you that I pressed the R button 12 seconds ago, and now the participant has been resting for 16 seconds. If it was a 20-second rest period and now they're going to do a short single task, I would go ahead and type the S after 20 seconds and click Enter. The best practice for marking the events is always to watch the participant. Sometimes we might instruct a participant to do something at a certain time, and there might be a delay from when we give that instruction and when they actually change their behavior. So follow the participant, not the protocol. So if the rest period happened to last for 23 seconds instead of 20 seconds, let the event run for the 23 seconds before you change the marker, even though you were hoping it was going to be 20 seconds long. Okay, so now that you know how to set up the software and mark the events, there's one more key piece of this screen that you would want to take a look at before you did any data collection. So these little red and white circles that you see here correspond to channels. You'll notice that they're always at the intersection of the yellow circles, which are the transmitters, and the blue circles, which are the receivers. So what you can do is look for any red circles. What that means is that the cap is not getting good signal quality. So I'm going to put this cap on a person in a second and show you how we improve the signal quality. But just to give a clear picture of how you can actually use the diagram in the bottom left screen is you would take a look. Right now I'm seeing that there's a red circle between R4 and T8. So what I would do on my cap is look for the transmitter that's labeled as T8, which is back here on the back of the cap, found it back here. And then I would also look for R4, which is also on the back of the cap back here. These are all labeled on the wires. And I would focus on improving the signal quality of that channel. The white channels would indicate to me that there is good signal quality there, so I might do a little bit to improve that signal quality. But my main focus before starting any data collection would be to minimize the amount of red circles on this figure. Keeping that in mind, this can take a while. So usually it's pretty safe to assume that the fNIRS cap setup, once you put it on the person, is going to last 20 minutes. But every project is different. So if you are on a time constraint, you have to use your time wisely. You know, some of our studies, we only have 30 minutes with the participant, so you can't use 30 minutes to fix every single channel because then you won't have time for your data recording. So use your best judgment as to when you have optimal signal quality. Just be aware of the time constraints that you're working on and just do your best to get the best signal quality that you can in that period of time. All right, so what I'm going to do now is take this cap off the mannequin and give you guys a visual demonstration of how we can improve the signal quality with our participants now that our software is set up and we have a data recording going. Okay, I'm going to start by putting the cap on the participant. It's going to fit them just like a beanie or a swim cap, so I usually just slide it on like that. People will have different head sizes, so it's really important to use the chin strap when you're putting it on. So the goal is to get the cap as best fitted to the participant's head without making them uncomfortable. So usually I just tighten it enough that the cap is forming to the shape and the size of their head. And you can also always ask them if they're uncomfortable, make sure that everything feels good on them. Great. Once you have the cap on the participant's head, we keep these wooden tools in our equipment bag. And what we use these for is adjusting the participant's hair. As I mentioned, you usually want to check the signal quality to know which transmitters and receivers you should focus on. But usually it's a good idea, especially with a participant like this, for instance, who has long hair and dark hair, to adjust all of the hair anyways. So when we're ready to adjust it, what we'll do is we'll press down the side of the optode slots, and that releases the transmitter or the receiver from the slot. So you can leave that sitting out, and then using the non-sharp end of the wooden tool, you're going to stick it into the optode slot, and almost like it's a comb, you're just going to use it to move the hair out of the way. And you might be able to see, whereas before it was only her hair that we could see under here, we can actually see some of her scalp now. So that's how you can know that you moved it. So if Gabriella was my participant, I would go through and do this for every single one of the channels. And then what I would do is I would go back to the signal quality index and check to see if there's any that I should go back and try and adjust the hair again. Okay, now after you adjust all of the hair, and even after you adjust it multiple times, you might still find that you're having bad signal quality. There are a lot of things that can contribute to this. A big factor is hair and skin tone, and honestly, sometimes it's hard to overcome that, but there are a couple more things that you can try and do to improve your signal quality. So the first thing is that the signal quality heavily depends on the angle at which the optodes are making contact with the scalp. So it might be the case that they're kind of just sitting slanted or tilted on the participant's head. Usually what we do to check this is we kind of toggle the wires around a little bit and see if they improve the signal quality once their position has shifted a little bit. If that is the case, that it seems like the wires hanging down is what's causing your signal quality concerns, what you can do is use a clip. This is one that I have in the bag right now. I can kind of put these wires up here and clip them in a position that improves the signal quality. Be careful when you're doing this. You want to be sensitive of the wires. Don't put anything too strong on them. You can also use exercise wrap, which we keep in our bag to tie things in a certain place. Paper clips sometimes even work to keep the wires placed in a certain position. Another thing that you should always do is just triple check that the cap is snug to the head. We can usually pull it down on their ears a little bit just to make sure it's all the way down. And then the last thing that you can do is that when you press the slide button to take them in and out of their slot, you'll notice that there's actually different levels that they push into. So as I'm holding the side button down, I can release it so that the optoid is further away from the scalp, or I can push the optoid in further and have it closer to the scalp. So when all else fails, I recommend just messing with the optoid position little by little to see if that's going to improve the signal quality as well. It might be the case that it needs to be a little further or a little bit closer to the scalp.